Welcome to The Side Quest, a weekly show on the Grep Beat podcast where we interview interesting people adding to the North Carolina startup community. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, welcome to another great episode of The Side Quest on the Grep Beat podcast. My name is Joe Colopy. I am the Grep Beat godfather. With me, as always, is Snolly of Primordial Ventures. Snolly, how's it going?
It's going great. We just finished out a long weekend. What did you do for Memorial Day?
Well, that does date us. As everyone now knows out there listening, is the week of May 26th, which is a weird way to say it, but I'm just going to say it. I had pretty mellow Memorial Day. I had a pretty big week last week. And so I was just chilling at home for Memorial Day. And it was kind of a rainy weather.
Rainy weekend for sure.
Nothing too crazy. How about you? How was your Memorial Day weekend?
I'm actually at home in Richmond, Virginia, which is where I grew up. And so a lot of this weekend has just been doing a lot of the nostalgic drives to the same mall we used to go to and just through the suburban, sleepy streets of Richmond, which has been pretty lovely. But I'll probably drive back to North Carolina tonight.
So you're in Richmond right now?
Yeah. And in a very empty house because we're moving a lot of things out.
You have a mysterious door behind you. I feel like if this were a sitcom, that would be the door that was like never opened until like the final episode and it would reveal something.
Someone pops out. Yeah, exactly. So I'm at home. Yeah.
Okay. And then to talk about malls, obviously you're a bit younger. I think going to the mall, like walking around and going getting your Orange Julius, I would think that'd be more of an 80s era.
Getting your what?
It sounds
Getting
Orange
your what?
Julius. It's just one of those mall. It's like a smoothie. It's like an 80s era smoothie. They probably featured it in Stranger Things.
Okay. Good call. I should go back and rewatch.
When you were going to the mall as a young person, was there a mall experience? I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think they'd be the same thing. And if so, like what were your go-to places?
I mean, I don't think it was the same thing in the sense of I have no idea what an Orange Julius is, but we definitely walked around the mall. And I think one of the popular places was like California Pizza Kitchen.
Sure.
And then we'd just walk around and do the same rotation.
Did you get the big cookies?
Yes. The big cookies and the butter cake at California Pizza Kitchen cannot recommend enough. So yeah, pretty standard mall experience.
Okay. All right.
That was like all there was to do.
Well, as you know, for our guest this week, we have Byron Revels of Abra, which is a Primordial portfolio company. And we are going to bring him on the show and also hear about his mall experiences. And somewhere in there, we'll talk startups and talk Abra as well.
I was just thinking through my mall experiences, Joe. It's actually not been that long since I went to the mall, but it was my first visit in probably like 2 years.
But there's going to the mall now. I'm in and out in kind of like a military operation perspective. But back in the day, we would just kind of like wander around because we couldn't drive or do anything. And so it was a little bit different. So let's just get into it. Byron, welcome to our show. Really great to see you. This is a great lead-in, actually, to talk about mall experiences. Maybe you can start us in terms of where you kind of grew up with a particular focus on your mall years, maybe the preteen mall years, and then kind of lead us a little bit to kind of what you're doing now.
That's a great place to start. Well, Joe and Sally, thanks for having me. Yeah. So I grew up in Charlotte and here in North Carolina, of course. Mm-hmm. And my go-to mall was South Park Mall. And if you're in Charlotte, you still know where that is for sure. And I spent hours walking around South Park in the pre-driving or not being able to drive with multiple people in the car type years.
Yeah.
And, spent way too much time in the Abercrombie and Fitch store there. And yeah, just, I think it was, probably the number one place to go and meet up with friends. So yeah. Joe, I, like you, enjoyed plenty of mall time.
Did you have go-to places in the food court or snack places around that you're like, oh, every time I go to the mall, I'm definitely getting that smoothie or that cookie or the whatever kind of thing that only teenagers can eat and not bloat up with it.
I definitely there was a cookie store. It was probably like a Great American. It's no longer there. That had like the cookies with the icing in the middle. So back then, that was the thing that my mom would not have allowed me to have eaten, and so of course I had to go for that first. And these days, of
I
course,
feel like
it's little different. I try to keep them away from that now, but still
Yeah.
it's fun.
I feel like a key part of going to the mall for us was just the lack of parental supervision, especially if you were going with your friends. And in our house, we never had soda, and we generally didn't keep like really bad junky snacks. We generally didn't have those at home. And so what that did was, raise really healthy kids at home. But then once those super healthy kids would go hang out with friends or go to a neighbor's house or go to the mall, it was just immediately out the window, and we had to go for all the sodas and junk. So that was the mall time for me.
Yeah. Well, part of growing up, I think. So Byron, this is really important. I want you to focus and answer very truthfully on this. When you're going to the mall, pre-driving, pre-friends driving, how did you get to the mall?
It was usually an older sibling of a friend or a parent dropping you off. And at that time, I did not have a cell phone. So I'm probably dating myself a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of wild, huh, Sonali? So it was
Why don't you say that to me? You know there weren't cell phones. We basically had rotary phones. We were doing smoke signals off campfires and stuff. It was different.
Sending carrier pigeons to each other,
It was like
obviously.
a whole experience too. It was kind of weird.
just forced you to plan a little bit better. You'd say,
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to be back here at this entrance at this time. And it worked. It was great.
I'm sure punctuality is now just sort of a thing of the past with cell phones. It's like you can always send a text 2 minutes before, like, hey, I'm running 15 minutes late, versus we didn't have a cell phone. It was just, all right, I'll wait here.
You could do it off the payphone. And then because you call collect, but you don't really want to pay, you would give different names. You would basically, when you're ready to be picked up, you call collect and it would be like, I don't know, Mulster or something random. You give the operator the name. And then when they pick up here, Mulster, okay, that's the code word. Now they know to go up. And
There
it's
you
more or
go.
less the free range time. Anyway, good times. Good times back
times.
in Stone Ages. Byron, you didn't top off there at the mall. You're not calling, you're not streaming from the mall. You've moved on. And so how'd you build your life and your career from those mall experiences?
Well, I have since acquired a cell phone, which has been tremendously helpful.
Congratulations.
And since the early experiences of going to the mall, I left and went to school, but then came back to Charlotte about 16 years ago now.
Now, did you go to Clemson?
I did. I went to Clemson.
Okay.
So
That's
I
not too
grew
far.
up
I mean, a couple hours away, or
not far. My dad's side of the family is from Durham, and so I grew up a Duke fan, even though parents went to Charlottesville, so it was a little controversial. But I aligned with my grandmother on her, cheering, being a Blue Devil, which I know is kind of risky
choice,
to
Byron.
throw out in this crowd, but
Good choice.
went to Clemson, and I think if anything, going to the mall made me want to have money, and so I could buy things. And so, like, growing up, I always had different businesses, but then in high school in particular, I ran a car detailing business and had friends that would work with me on it, and we were making great money, and so that allowed me to go and spend money at the mall.
was that mobile? Like, how did you get business through just the neighborhood, and you guys would go over and basically super clean someone's car? How did that work?
Yeah, we put flyers out in different neighborhoods, had a lot of word of mouth. Most people wanted to help out high school kids that were entrepreneurial and trying to make some money. Would go to, like, my with my grandfather to Rotary Club meetings and talk to folks there and get business that way. And then had a lot of repeat customers, and it was great. And particularly when I started pulling some friends in to help out, it kind of became nice. I remember at one point I was at home and I knew I was getting a cut of what one of my friends was doing. And I thought, this is pretty cool. I want to see if I could, make this more repeatable, but then ran into some quality control issues, of course. So tried to ultimately keep it higher. But it was a good lesson in just, getting out of your comfort zone and doing something to make some money so that you can go buy things at the mall and socialize.
It's amazing.
And that continued on at Clemson too. My current co-founder, Matt, he and I met freshman year, and we started a business together in college. He was building and maintaining websites for different student organizations and local businesses, and really was not like making any money off of it. And so he told him he needed to be charging for it. He said, well, I don't really want to deal with the money side. And I said, well, I have an idea. Let's start a business. So
That's
was
awesome.
a continuation of ultimately everything driven by the desire to be able to have money in the mall, I guess.
It all comes back to that. So you graduated from Clemson. You were able to, you had another kind of more than side hustle, but I think, scrappy young person hustle. What happens after graduation? How did I imagine you had a number of jobs and did things that kind of led to, we'll certainly talk about Abra, but led to this experience.
Yeah. So I went to work for a couple companies back here in Charlotte, was doing, basically like an analyst role. And ultimately, like, I knew I wanted to get into sales, but in the healthcare, health and wellness space that I entered into, a lot of the salespeople were significantly older, and you had to have some gray hair and have like a certain level of maturity in order to like sell the product that our company was offering.
Yeah.
And so the way that I ended up weaseling my way in was through being the one that would demo our new technology platform that was used to engage participants in the programs that we set up and would run. And so I got to go on sales calls and be kind of the young, like, techie guy that could demo the product, answer questions about it. And that particular, technology was one of our big differentiators. So I had to travel a lot, go get involved in the strategy for deals, and was almost like the kind of more inside person on some of the, more, like pipeline management and deal strategy. And so ultimately then ended up getting into sales that way.
Very cool.
Yeah. It was great.
What specifically, I feel like on the sales front, there are people who are just so naturally good at sales. And as soon as they get that first sales experience, they're like, this is what I want to do. And then there's people who, see sales and sort of run away from it. Like what drew you to sales?
That's a good question that deserves a thoughtful answer. I would say for me, it's not so much being motivated by like the quick dopamine hits of closing a deal. It's more about being motivated by coming up with creative solutions to overcome objections and advance an opportunity. And so in that way, really everything that I've done from a sales perspective has been more like complex, like longer sales cycles, more consultative in nature than, selling kind of quick hit wins.
Sure.
And I think that that's fun. I've also, after those first couple of sales roles, went into different companies that were in some cases pre-product market fit and even pre-revenue. And so as like that first sales hire, I was very much trying to figure out, what do we need to build exactly? And how can I partner internally with our product engineering teams to like build the thing that will be easiest to sell? And seeing some alignment between that and solving some of the biggest issues is really what I love about sales. And I'm a highly introverted person, as my wife would tell you. And I love getting to talk to people and being out, looking and understanding, the lives and the actual like challenges that folks deal with in their different roles. I think that's really fascinating. Just I'm very curious about, how different organizations work and what challenges people face.
That's a good lead in for what you're doing now. So maybe, tell us a little bit about what Abra is and the origin story to where you guys are with it right now.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Abra. We're of course, a primordial portfolio. And we are building an AI platform in the procurement and finance space. And so if you think about like your average organization or company, like really those companies are made up of the people, their human capital, and then the tools and vendors that they use to help build their product or deliver their services. And so the challenge that a lot of organizations face is that they have, most of the organization buying things like contracting with vendors. And yet it's this central function called procurement that is really the group that understands how to properly gauge risk, understands how to, get the best deals on things, and how to like really run a thorough evaluation process. But in today's world, it's really challenging for those teams because they're seen as a cost center, even though they're moving to this more strategic operating model. And so they're being told that they can't really grow their headcount, and yet they need to have better visibility and control over an increasing number of like AI POCs and different vendors that introduce just vastly, increased levels of risk to the organization, given some of the underlying technology. And so you've got this situation now where a lot of these companies are trying to buy tools, put them in the hands of their team members to help them move as quickly as possible. But yet procurement is operating on this like legacy process that really just slows everything down. And what we're doing is we have a platform that helps procurement see organizationally where buying activity is occurring, and then allows them to support that buying activity in a decentralized fashion with playbooks, best practices, and automated support for kind of pre-procurement types of interactions that the business is having with vendors. And so, said more simply, we help accelerate businesses by helping their teams get tools faster.
So in terms of current customers or prospective customers, maybe you could tell from a customer story as well, like what would be the typical type of customer that would really be ideal for Abra?
Yeah, so we're working with fast-growing technology startups, companies like Greenlight Financial, Lattice, OnePay, Lemonade, be a good consumer name, and are really seeing that their teams that are generally in the like 1 to 5 procurement team member size are using Abra to both get visibility into what the rest of the organization is doing, but then using that visibility to better support the rest of the business in the buying process. So an example of that would be a company that is, looking to contract with a new AI vendor. And yet the marketing team that's looking at it really doesn't know some of the early vetting questions that maybe would preclude them from working with that vendor. And so with Abra, the procurement team member can see that they're engaging with that vendor, can share a playbook for the types of questions they should ask to vet whether or not this vendor is going to be a fit for them with their security posture, and either confirm that, or in many cases, help save that marketing team a ton of time from spending months working with a vendor only to come to procurement to try to get the deal done and then be told, we can't do this. And so like that's where we're saving the business a ton of time, and then also helping procurement really go like upstream in the process to be more consultative and strategic. So really helping like bring the end-to-end process together versus having procurement just sit at the very end where they're just a gatekeeper.
So how big a company, and I know probably, I'm sure the answer is it varies, but if one organization was going to have a procurement team that was 1 to 5 people, like I don't really have a great sense of what total size organization that might be, depending on industry.
Yeah. So generally it's going to be a company that has at least like 300 to 500 employees. That's when you'll usually see finance carve out the procurement function into a dedicated team and create like a full process. But yeah, it's anything above that. I think what's kind of interesting for us is that we are very late stage with a number of like Fortune 500 financial services and life sciences firms. And they face some of the same challenges as the smaller teams do. But the thing that they do largely have in common is that they require, compliant, they require that they have a compliant buying process. So like, I guess for us, really, it's organizations that have heavy, what's called indirect spend, meaning not buying metal and supplies as the primary, area that they spend money on. But then also those that for regulatory reasons, like in banking, need to have really tight controls over the vendors they're working with and that they allow to enter their organization as a partner. And that's where like our control tower view that we give the procurement and finance teams of how the organization is engaging with these vendors helps them accomplish that and helps them catch things earlier to save the business time. So it's really, companies in that 300 to 500 employee range on the low end are seeing a lot of value here. Where we are seeing the most rapid growth at this point is in more like mid-market and enterprise, given that they face some of the same challenges, but just at a like dramatically different scale.
Yeah, no, that makes so very exciting. Can you give us a sense of where Abra itself is as an organization in terms of either, you're based in Charlotte, but what places you might have, or size of team, or type of functions, or anything along those lines, number of customers?
Yeah, for sure. So we're based in Charlotte. I've got two co-founders. One, my CTO, lives in Alaska, right outside of Anchorage. And then our COO, head of product, and co-founder, Ben, lives in San Francisco. So we're spread out there. We've got engineering team largely in Brazil, mostly in the Sao Paulo area, but have a couple sprinkled throughout. And yeah, so we're a lean but mighty team that's heavily leveraging AI ourselves to better scale our individual functions and what the business is doing. And so it's something that we think about a lot, is like how can we find that balance between testing and implementing new AI tooling without making that like too much of the focus, because of course we have to also deliver a product and take care of customers. But yeah, we're in that mode of like just actively trying to automate as much as is wise to automate at this point.
So the name Abra, every time I see Abra, I think of Abra, Abracadabra, particularly the Steve Miller song. Gonna reach out and grab you, if you know that lyric. It was a older song, so now like for your time, I listened to it while sipping Orange Julius's at the mall.
As one does.
Southern Mall, actually, in Northwest Ohio, or Northwest Akron, which is in Northeast Ohio. Anyways, tell us a little bit about how it connects to the name, how you guys thought of the name, and if there's any connection, or if you just liked it.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of gets back to the origin story, which was after being in sales for 15 years, I saw where basically like groups outside of procurement were not great at buying things and generally did not get the best deals for their companies. And that's led to, what I would say is probably the biggest opportunity here, which is that companies are just like massively overpaying for everything because their business stakeholders are giving up leverage, disclosing budget, not asking the right questions early, narrowing their focus and falling in love with a vendor too soon. And so, Abra is this, abracadabra type approach or offering.
Oh, so it is kind of connected to the.
It is
magic spell.
Okay. Yeah, to give them that visibility into this buying activity that they've never had before, because we're the first groups that are leveraging collaboration tool data for procurement and buying teams in this way, so that we're able to then connect dots and help show them like where this buying activity is occurring. So when we launch the new customer, it's like really cool because it's that new data. It's things that are going on all around them that they can't see today because their current procurement systems just start at what's called the intake process. And so it is kind of this like magical aha moment when we, turn that on for them. It also helps, of course, that Abra starts with an A, AB. We end up on the top of the list at conferences, and
there you go.
And then somehow Abra Inc. was available as well as a Delaware C Corp. So everything kind of fell into place.
It all aligned. Well, I don't think people should underestimate the value of being high in alphabetical sorting when it comes to branding. Very, very cool. We're coming a little bit to the end of our time, but really want to thank you for joining. Want to know if you have any final thoughts, final things in terms of that you'd like to share with the GrepBeat community that we can put out there in the universe.
Yeah, I would say that we are increasingly working with like finance teams just as much as procurement teams, and really any organization that has a desire to not only save money on what they're spending on third-party vendors, but also to really help better empower their business to go and find the right vendors. We are seeing a ton of impact in those areas. So I'm always keen to connect with finance and procurement leaders that are looking to really help their functions transition to this more strategic consultative partner to the rest of the business. So if anyone out there wants to visit us at helloabra.com and learn more, please do so.
Awesome.
Great.
All right,
Thank
Byron.
you so much, Byron.
Thank
Joe
you so
Sally.
much for joining us. It was great to see you, and enjoy the rest of this. At least in Durham, it's going to be a rainy week. I don't know about Charlotte as well.
Yes. Well, Joe Sonali, thanks so much for having me. We'll wish for some better weather here before long.
All right.
Thanks,
All right, take care.
Byron. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining. Be sure to follow us through your favorite podcast platform. Now get back to working on your side quest